Hello everyone and welcome back to Season 4 of our F125 My Team Career Mode. Yes, Cadillac is back. Of course, if you missed out on pre-season testing yesterday, go back and check it out. But I would highly recommend sticking around and watching this entire video today. The start of a new season is always an interesting time in Formula 1, and it's safe to say this one has drama right from the get-go. New driver lineups, new teams, you know, lots of switching around, but of course, it's always a great start to a Formula 1 season here in Albert Park. Stick around right to the end though, because this one gets very, very chaotic. I really do hope you guys enjoy, and let's head down to, I guess, the team facility? A few driver moves, of course, the big one being Max Verstappen retiring from the sport. We were hoping to hire him, ready for this season. That, of course, not able to happen. Kimi Antonelli making the move to Red Bull. We've got a couple new liveries and a few new rookie drives as well there. Nicholas Sullivan, Tim Tramnitz now, all the way from F3, have made it to Formula 1 as well. So it is quite interesting to kind of see more and more driver lineups chopping and changing, and more, obviously, junior drivers making their way into the sport as well. But of course, yeah, if you're new around here, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. If you haven't already as well and you want early access to all these videos, you can click the join button down below. It costs just £1 a month. Like I said, you get early access, so you would have seen this video yesterday, and then a few other little perks and bits and pieces. And last but not least as well, I'm trying to do a big push to get 10k followers on my Twitch channel before the end of 2025. I normally aim to go live about 4 days a week as well over there. So yeah, make sure you drop us a follow. We do a lot of F1 and a few other bits and pieces. But yeah, without further ado though, let's return here to Albert Park.
And a warm welcome everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
Well, I am really hoping that this season maybe we can be the one that stops Charles Leclerc in his reign of dominance throughout the entirety of this My Team universe so far on F125. Leclerc, 3 straight championships with Ferrari. One of not that many drivers now inside this game that is still with his original team inside F125. I'm trying to think, is anybody else still? Maybe like a Nico Hulkenberg, someone like that, down at Audi. Of course, I know that team has changed in that time, but obviously according to the game, he is still exactly where he started. But apart from that, I genuinely don't believe there is anybody else. Maybe, no, Sainz obviously is over at McLaren now, so yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Where at least now on F125 there are a few more kind of driver moves season to season as well, which is obviously nice, and obviously gives you a little bit of extra spice, doesn't it? But I'm excited to see how Tramnitz and Solov get on over the course of the season as well. Obviously, we have Callum Boyson back in Season 1, but I pretty much drove exclusively as him. Will the F3 drivers suck? Will they be kind of on par with the F2 drivers? Only time will tell. I'm just hoping that we can obviously make it straight into Q2, as I completely forgot to use battery on this first run, so that time will not be good enough. I'm going to have to go again. But it is a little bit crazy just how much time you can find by actually remembering to use the battery. Clearly, despite how many years now I've commentated live over racing Formula 1 cars, I still quite haven't got the grip of it. That's not really reassuring, is it? Especially as I was trying to talk about hopefully winning a World Championship away and stopping Charles Leclerc's reign of terror. I believe top times though are going to be in the 1:13s throughout the course of this session, and well, immediately looks like we could be on for a 1:13 there as we make our way at the final corner. Power down, flat towards the line. It is going to be a 1:13.9. We go only P7, slower than Oscar Piastri. Well, there we go then, straight away in Q1, Kimi Antonelli getting up to the speed with his new team over at Red Bull, 2 tenths clear of Lando Norris there. Carlos Sainz third ahead of reigning world champion Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri, like I said, quicker than me, but Nicholas Solov as well, a brilliant effort in Q1 there to go P8 on his debut. Pepe Marti looks like he's safely through into Q2 alongside Colapinto and Zach O'Sullivan. Jack Crawford out, that's quite a shock when you factor in obviously the fact that his teammates made it through quite comfortably. Paul Aaron again, that V-carb seemed to struggle last year. Lance Stroll, not really surprising. Ollie Behrman is the most unlucky driver I've ever seen on this game. And then, again, the two Audis, obviously now with an all-German lineup this year. Tramnitz did go quicker than Hulkenberg, though. So I guess there were a few surprises in Q1. Well, there's no doubt about it in my mind then. Top time, pole time is going to be a 1 minute 12. Where in the 1 minute 12s, I've got no idea. But Charles Leclerc has immediately come out and ran a 13 flat as his first run in Q2. I'm sure, obviously, for the Monegasque man, you know, new season, everything like that, you want to start it as you mean to go on there with a dominant, strong performance. But, I mean, this is Albert Park on F125. The races can be rather hectic and a bit chaotic. I'm just obviously still trying to slowly ramp up the pace. Obviously, our Q1 run was effectively done on an old set of tyres. So our purple, well, through that first sector, just run a little bit wide out onto the back straight. Lucky not to invalidate. Well, purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2 as well. Could this be the first 1 minute 12 we've seen this weekend? I can't quite remember what the pole time was last year. But yeah, these cars now are ludicrously quick inside F125. We saw Verstappen, of course, set the fastest lap ever in Formula 1 last weekend, obviously back at the Italian Grand Prix. Don't think we're quite going to match that here, but we might not be too far away as we end up going third. But Oscar Piastri, currently fastest then in Q2. Have we finally got a good rear gunner teammate, or have we got a better teammate? And there we go then. By the end of Q2, it was Piastri their fastest on that 1:13.0, just 17 thousandths of a second clear of Charles Leclerc. But both Cadillacs inside your top three, so that pace that we had towards the end of last season does seem to have stuck around. Andrea Kimi Antonelli does make it through there, but a little bit slower that time. Nicolas Solov, though, debuted Grand Prix, and he will make it into Q3 ahead of Esteban Ocon, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda as well. So a brilliant effort by him. So, I mean, the fight is on then. Could we claim pole position to kickstart the year in the best way possible? Well, as everybody heads back out then for their final runs in anger here, the team believe a fresh set of softs can provide us with 1.5 tenths of extra speed. We are currently 1/10 away from Charles Leclerc. They believe there is a pole lap in this car, and what a way to kickstart the new season for Cadillac it would be if we can manage that then. Nice and tidy through turn 1. Again, just finding a little bit more. These cars are so cartoonishly fast around this venue today. They are a joy to drive, though. I'm sure when you get it hooked up, it is going to be so fun over the course of this season there. Just trying to carry the speed through the end of Sector 1. We are going to be up again there. Lando Norris, though, had a brilliant Sector 1 split as we just try and carry the run. Take the line of least resistance out onto the back straight. Drain the battery. I definitely left too much in it last time around there. As up in towards turn 9 and turn 10. Can we take the first part completely flat out? Yes, we can. Down to 7 through the second part there. That is ridiculous. Completely flat through the entry of that corner. Piastri goes to the top of the board. Immediately, though, has been beaten. Lando Norris does a 1:12.4 here. Right towards the end of qualifying. These speeds are getting absolutely out of control. As can we find any more to potentially put ourselves up at least on the front row of the grid there? A little bit hesitant on the throttle through the final corner. 4 tenths up those who make our way to the line. P2. Well, there we are then. Lando Norris, he will claim pole position here at the Australian Grand Prix. Both Ferraris pipping both Cadillacs by less than 3/100ths of a second. But I've just had to do the maths. I've actually got an average calculator out to take a look at this. Lando Norris's average lap speed was 263.93 kilometers an hour. So barely below what we saw Max Verstappen achieve last weekend at Monza. And of course, Australia, it's a pretty fast track now in Formula 1, but it is still not quite on that level. It looks like, though, Cadillac, hopefully, we're going to be the real deal this season. Charles Leclerc just ahead of Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz ahead of Colapinto and Gasly. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, he'll be disappointed down in P8, just in a Mercedes sandwich, as Nicolas Solov, yeah, like we said, of course, debut weekend for him. He will line up P10. I'm sure he's just happy to have made Q3.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. The Melbourne circuit is certainly one that needs to be taken seriously. It's a combination of slippery surfaces and difficult corners, making it a very tricky track when it comes to overtaking. Drivers find it hard to pass and will need to take full advantage of those DRS zones if they want to have any hope of breaking through. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position. And Isaac Hadjar completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Piastri, Carlos Sainz and Colapinto, Gasly, Antonelli, Russell and Nicolas Soloff, Ocon, Pepe Marti, Yuki Tsunoda and O'Sullivan, Bortoletto, Doohan, Jack Crawford and Paul Aaron, Stroll, Tramnitz, Hulkenberg and Ollie Behrman rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Well, you know that thing I said in qualifying about Ollie Behrman being the unluckiest driver inside F1 25? How on earth have Alpine already managed for him to take new engine components for the first race of the year? Like, did an engine go pop during qualifying? Honestly breaks my mind as to just how hilariously bad that team can be and how unlucky he seems to be. I'm not just saying he's unlucky at Alpine. I've seen him have a lot of bad luck at Haas as well in other career modes and things like that. But when you combine him with Alpine, it is just the perfect storm of disaster inside F1 25. For us, though, it is looking like a beautiful sunny weekend here from Albert Park. Us versus Ferrari, the two red teams locking out the front 4 grid slots. But who will come out on top today then? The 5 red lights are on here in Albert Park. Oh, and it is the lights out, and oh wait, we go there. Lando Norris responding very, very well to the lights. So has Charles Leclerc behind us, though, as we bog down a little bit through the first phase. There is Leclerc right around the outside, down at turn 1. A power move by the Monegasque driver to make that happen immediately at the start of the Grand Prix. Of course, you know, we've got 16 races and a couple of sprints thrown in there. We don't need to desperately try and get back past him as soon as possible on lap 1. You know, this isn't the Monaco Grand Prix. Overtaking is certainly doable around this track early on, but Lando Norris, he will know he needs to start the race strong as well here. See, Charles Leclerc had a mechanical failure last season, if you guys remember as well, around this track, so was able to fight back from the worst possible way to finish round 1 of the season in, well, a similar vein to what Verstappen did, of course, back in 2022. But yeah, those Ferraris, though, they will want to try and push early on, get us out of the range if they possibly can. There's immediately Oscar Piastri getting right at my gearbox as well. What do we do if Oscar Piastri starts delivering really well this season? Do I chop and change between the two drivers again? Or do I still just focus on trying to make Hadjar a world champion? Well, here we go, Leclerc again, trying to have a look around the outside of Norris, and I think Ferrari are just starting to implement... Oh no, they certainly are not implementing team calls right there, as Norris tried to go wheel to wheel with him. Oscar Piastri, well, will find a way past myself as well, so... Well, the drivers have started on the second row then, look to be quicker than the drivers have started on the front row. I'm just going to try and sit with Oscar as best as I can, see what his speed is like, whether he can drag me back towards that front 2. Of course, if they're fighting and we aren't, that will hopefully make our life a little bit easier, but the DRS is just so powerful around this circuit, so it is going to be interesting. There we go, we might just have been able to get Carlos Sainz now at the DRS range of the two Cadillac machines, so we've clearly got the speed over everybody else, but quite clearly Oscar Piastri cannot keep up with his former teammate Lando Norris as well. I think just Ferrari, maybe playing those DRS games with each other, do stand a slightly better chance, as we will try and go back around the outside of Oscar. Oh, he's not going to try and fight it, but I've completely fired it in way too aggressively there. Never going to get the car slowed down. That just didn't brake early enough with the extra speed on the way into the corner. Yes, that's the first Mat 2 bottle job of the new season, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Well, because these cars are now so hilariously quick inside F1 25, it does mean you know, being precise with them, positioning them perfectly is obviously even more difficult. You know, you've got less time to think about it, of course, inside this game. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, though, we have slowly closed back up to the back of the MasterCard McLaren. I know I mentioned it a couple of times before, but we did predict that before it's happening. Of course, IRL ready for next season. So MasterCard McLaren, you know, if you want some other looks into the future from the F125 game, well, this is clearly the channel you want to be heading to. Are we going to hopefully be able to try and make light work of the Spaniard? He's doing very, very well, of course. Yuki Tsunoda struggled in qualifying, as we definitely want to try and get the better of this team over the course of this season. But from a long way back, out to the back straight, we will swoop back around the outside of Carlos. And purple through that sector as well we go. Looks like Piastri, he's holding that gap pretty level to those Ferraris. But as we get closer to the pit window, tyre strategy is going to be interesting. Oh, we've got yellows. That's a Mercedes, I believe. No, it's not. I think that's someone else. Something has happened down at the final couple of corners, as I thought for a second. It's a Red Bull. Is that Andrea, Kimi, Antonelli? No, it's Esteban Ocon out of the Grand Prix. So, of course, it was Antonelli that ran into those problems at the start of the Grand Prix, which I'm sure he'll still be disappointed about. But Red Bull, I see it so much on this game. They have terrible reliability. Here we go then. We just charged up the battery pack a little bit through those first few corners, and hopefully now with the DRS enabled, they're going to be able to try and fight back around the outside of our Australian teammate. Of course, it is his home Grand Prix, so I'm sure he'd be looking for a big result here. Of course, still, no Australian has finished on the podium at their home event, but around the outside we will go, and back up into third, as you can still see those Ferraris nose to tail just in front. Lando Norris, though, back in P1. Will it be him? Will it be Leclerc that gets priority pit stop then? Only time will tell. It is going to be, Lando Norris! As I'm going to go around again for the second time today, try not to rejoin into the path of Carlos Sainz, who also dives into the pit lane there, but just completely lost grip of those rear tyres on the way into the pit lane, and the second mistake I've made, and it just gets even worse. What on earth am I doing, man? A comedy of errors as we try to peel into the pit lane here, and I think any hope we've got of trying to fight for the victory might now be over. Bottle Job 212 is back, it would appear, as trying to fight our way back out of the pit lane. Oh, I am stupid there, as into turn one. Oh, we almost get completely rear-ended by Ollie Behrman there through that first corner, as Antonelli, he went over to hards earlier on, so there's not a chance he's effectively no-stopping this race, is there? As I'm hoping these hard tyres will fare a little bit better through the rest of the Grand Prix, but we need to get on with it. There we go then, Oscar Piastri into the pit lane, and of course our teammate then back into the provisional podium places, unless Carlos Sainz can get a jump on him there through the final couple of corners, though. All over the back of Lance Stroll and Paul Aaron, who I'm sure are both as well about to dive into the pit lane. So we will, we're still inside your top 10, but we're going to be back up, hopefully, into 5th place here, as I think now, sensibly, 5th might be all we can muster in this Grand Prix. So I don't know what strategy Antonelli's going with. Let's see if I can listen in.
Okay, Antonelli behind. Time last lap, 1 minute 17.3. Okay, they're on old, hard tyres. Their tyres are 13 laps old. We think they've got one more stop.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's not a chance Antonelli could effectively do this entire race on one set of tyres, but yeah, I mean, we've got 4-second gap over Tsunoda just behind, who's now on mediums, so I don't know what Yuki's doing either, really, in this race, but we need to try and close back in at the front, and if possible, I need to help Oscar Piastri get around those Ferraris. He looks like he's pretty close now in the range of one of them, but I could not tell you which. But it is quite funny when you take a look at the mini-map then. I know obviously a new season always kind of, you know, answers a lot of questions and things like that. Teams that are maybe come on a bit stronger, maybe teams that need to put a bit more work into their car, a few more late nights back at the factory, but it's quite clear already that there is an interesting pace divide as well. That's my second warning of the day. Got to be careful with those. You know, Ferrari and Cadillac, we are definitely the top 2 teams there, but McLaren, obviously, Carlos Sainz has done pretty well to hang as close as he has. Tsunoda We'll say terrible qualifying for him. I mean, he's been a lot further down the order. Mercedes, again, seem to be in a bit of no man's land. And, well, apart from Audi, they seem to be completely disconnected off the back of the pack still. When on earth are they going to put the development and investment into that team that they need to? Most of the midfield, though, the fight still seems to be pretty good. I believe it is the Williams cars that are right towards the front of that group, but it is quite interesting as to kind of how things form early on and whether that'll carry on this season. But for our team, though, Piastri still ahead of Lando Norris, but doesn't look like he's quite got enough at the moment to take time out of Leclerc. I'm still just pushing on because I was about to say if we get a safety car or something like that, which if I keep making mistakes could happen, you know, we could easily get into the pit lane, serve this penalty and come back out only 2 places further back. But mistakes like that are just making it impossible for me to build up 10 seconds over Russell. Oh, safety car! Why? What's happened? Oh, one of the Alpine's Behrman's gone! Well, again, you know how I talk about Ollie Behrman being sometimes the unluckiest and most crash-prone driver on F1 25? That's why we got the safety car. I mean, if you watch it from the offboard, it looks even more hilarious. Making his way through. He's having a pretty tough weekend, you know, grid penalties out in Q1, everything like that. And just decides he's going to absolutely send it Tokyo drift style into the wall. And that is how we ended up with a safety car.
Okay,
we have redemption. We have a lifeline.
Which means you're going too fast. Reduce your pace.
Oh, that could make things really spicy towards the end of the afternoon, as none of our front runners want to dive in. None of them obviously want to lose their track position here. So as we dive into the pit lane, I still think it's a little bit odd that you can serve penalties inside this game under safety car. I think if you're already in the pits, then obviously it's fair game. But otherwise, it's still a little bit weird there, as I'm not convinced we're going to come out ahead of Pepe Marti and Franco Colapinto. So we are going to have some work to do in these final few laps. Oh, we're going to come out right at the back of that group, so this has not gone well. How?
Let's try and put that behind us now and get back into this race.
How on earth do you have an issue attaching the right rear wheel when you've had 10 seconds to line it up? And suddenly, well, I said we might come back out in this Grand Prix in P8. We've come out in P17. Oh boy, we're going to have a ridiculous amount of work to do. Still would be better though than if we hadn't a pit, I can't help but feel. Because we would not have built up a 10-second gap again. Well, getting ready then to go green flag racing with just 4 laps remaining of the Australian Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, I'm sure he wasn't too happy about that safety car. But for both Cadillacs, it presents an opportunity. I've had a stinker of an afternoon. If I can just recover to points, I'll be pretty happy. But we're going to have to get the elbows out. We are on 10 lap pressure, 2-stage softer tyres than everybody around me, in a much, much quicker car as well. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to slice and dice our way back through as best as we can here. But as Leclerc leads the way out of those final couple of corners, Paul Aaron not getting it on with it as early as I'd hoped he would. But making sure then I was trying to obviously save up the battery under that safety car, so we've got a full charge ready to go once again then. It's by the time we get into turn 1. I mean, look at the amount of grip we've got there. Tried to turn in at the same time as the car in front of us there and almost completely cut the corner. And the outside of the Estonian, though, in his V-car, as he gets a little bit wedged over the curb. But we are immediately back up. It's going to be so tricky trying to manage the battery in these final few laps as well, of course. As I've done more league racing and things like that, I've kind of learned to appreciate, you know, the amount of battery, you know, how much you've got to manage it inside F1 25 if you want to find more speed there. As look at that, though. A run we can get down in towards the final few corners there. It's down the inside of a McLaren and a Red Bull. Oh, don't lose the back end of the car through the exit of the corner. But past Andrea, Kimi, Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda in one go then. As we are almost back up into the points already. Nikola Solov obviously qualified 10th, but yeah, it's dropped outside of that top 10 throughout this Grand Prix so far. Can we get a run on Sir Lancelot by the time we get in towards turn 1? Whoa, Lance! I had to trim the apex there slightly because I just knew Lance was not going to give me any room on the inside after I'd already committed to it. Lance Stroll, 0 awareness as always. Crawford, big mistake as we make our way out to the back straight. Just got a bit of a wiggle And that'll cost him speed, cost him momentum all the way down this back straight then, as that Haas thing actually looks to be pretty racy in a straight line here, as next up then is going to be Solov. It's Bortolotto on his Aston Martin debut. Oh, having a pretty good time of things so far. Down the inside, though, of Solov, we will go the young Hungarian. Whoa! Is everybody again braking way earlier than I expected? I've gone down the inside for about 3 cars accidentally. Apologies there to Zach O'Sullivan, who did a pretty good job avoiding me. He scored no points last season, but is still just about running inside the top 10 when he hasn't got a wayward Cadillac flying through the shot. But again, somehow we kept it clean and tidy through probably the skill of our rivals rather than my own skill. To the inside of Colapinto, back in towards turn 1. Up another one then, so we're basically back to where we were then before this safety car, based on where our penalty would have left us, is to the outside of Pepe Marti. So Williams having a pretty good day out of it so far. But back up then into 7th. If we can get those Mercs, I will class this as a win. Oh no, what's happened to Piastri here later on in the day? Looks like Sainz has gone through, and Cadillac has one car making a good recovery. The other one seems to be really struggling. Oscar Piastri losing a place to George Russell, losing a place to Carlos Sainz. And he might be about to lose another one then to Pierre Gasly. This is not what I want to see in towards the final lap of the Grand Prix, especially now Ferrari looking pretty comfortable back out 1 and 2. As we dive our way through turn 1 then. Oh, we're going to try and get some DRS there. We are just trying to charge up our battery pack though, to make sure we can get the run down the back straight. Looks like Piastri has been able to gather it up again a little bit, but no idea what happened to him. I can't see any front wing damage on the car, so I can't assume it's that. But always so difficult to tell inside this game then, as how many more cars are we going to be able to get? Whoa! On this last lap there, we definitely cost ourselves time through the exit of the corner, as I tried not to gain an advantage on Pierre Gasly. But it's Piastri then in the DRS of George Russell, Gasly in the DRS of him. We are in the DRS of Pierre Gasly. It wasn't really the team I wanted to be battling with towards the end of the Grand Prix. But let's see if we can get the run then on the Mercedes, down in towards the final few corners, to the inside of Pierre Gasly, who has been better than George Russell most of the weekend, but he is not going to get the result to show it. Through the final corners though, it is going to be Ferrari kick-starting the year with a 1-2. I got no idea which one of them is going to take the victory. Oh, I tried to get a run on Oscar through the final corner. Leclerc will come through for 2nd behind Lando Norris. We will hang on for 6th.
And here he comes. It's all go, go, go for Lando Norris as he takes the checkered flag and wins.
And to get a victory at the first race of the season, this might be a sign of things to come. One thing's for sure is that this performance will be giving the team and the driver relief and confidence going into the rest of the season.
Well, it's been a long wait for many of our drivers, but the wait is always worth it. Bring them out to the awaiting crowd. It's time for our podium celebrations. He raises the trophy over his head. Lando Norris, head and shoulders above the rest today.
Well, there we are then. By just 0.8 of a second, it will be Lando Norris that beats Charles Leclerc for the Grand Prix victory this afternoon. Carlos Sainz will come through for P3, and Cadillac, well, the pace is there, but both of us, I mean, I made my own bad luck, to be honest, today. Oscar Piastri was just very, very unlucky in those final few laps there. Neither of us finishing on the podium, neither of us even finishing in the top 4. 5th and 6th. It's a tough pill to swallow, but, you know, we can move up from here, and there will be chances for redemption this season. George Russell comes through for a brilliant 4th place drive. George, basically did nothing, and, you know, he did the George Russell thing of do nothing, Wasn't quite a podium, but was pretty close here. Pierre Gasly in 7th ahead of Pepe Marti there, who I believe that's his first ever Formula 1 points. Franco Colapinto and Gabriel Bortoleto on debut for Aston Martin. He will bring home P10. Solov, I'm sure, will be a little bit gutted not to score a point here, but he does still beat out his experienced American teammate in Jack Crawford. Lance Stroll down in 13th there. Sonoda and Antonelli, a pretty disappointing weekend for the pair of them. Zach O'Sullivan, Ollie Behrman, and Esteban Ocon all failing to see the checkered flag. What does that do to our World Championship? Well, of course, the drivers result exactly the same as the finishing order. Constructors-wise, though, Ferrari 43 points there for them, the maximum haul. Mercedes and Cadillac tied on 18 apiece there, and McLaren just a further 3 behind. Williams and Aston Martin with points on the board. I'm sure we will see Red Bull and Haas score as well, but VCARB, Alpine and Audi, they are going to be the big question over the course of this campaign. Thank you all so much for watching, though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready I believe, it's either Suzuka or Bahrain. I just can't remember which when I'm under pressure.